What is up, my paladins of the pump? We are back with my second upper body day, Excalibur. This comes from the tales of King Arthur, where he pulls the sword from the stone, proving he's worthy, just as you are proving you're worthy at the end of a long work or school week by crushing this workout and getting some sweet gains. But before we get into how exactly we're gonna do that, I'd like to ask you guys to subscribe and leave a comment. I don't really give a shit about likes. I'd rather see you guys interact and ask me questions about this workout. So let's get on with it. Kicking it off with our first superset and our heavy press flat dumbbell bench. Contrary to the current popular belief that you should be maximizing the stretch on every exercise, I choose not to on dumbbell bench press. This wasn't always the case. Probably for the past year and a half, I had been going super deep in the stretch on this exercise, choosing to really sit way below my shoulder joint. But then I had to do some thinking instead of letting other people do the thinking for me. And I was like, wait a minute, the resistance profile of this exercise makes the highest tension point sit right above the chest, your sticking point, where you fail your reps the most. And so if you want to maximize your time in the hardest position, causing the most muscle tension and overall stress on your muscles, why would you go significantly below that point, causing you to use less weight and get less reps in that high tension position? Also, if you feel it, actually, it's more on your shoulders and your front delts than it is on your chest, despite the stretch feeling good. I have found that just pushing heavier weight and still getting a good amount of range of motion, you see my elbows break below parallel, so it's more than a regular barbell bench press, but pushing that weight and really trying to stay as much time as possible, aka as many reps as possible in that hardest sticking point, has been most beneficial for my chest gains. Now, that's not to say that super deep dumbbell presses or chest movements are not beneficial. You'll see one later in the workout. But if I were to do one with dumbbells, it would be a fly press instead, where the dumbbells are vertical to my body. And I feel like this takes the shoulder out of it a bit more, allowing you to not only press deeper because the dumbbells don't get in the way, but also use more of the chest as you're able to get into a fly position instead of just a pure pressing position. I tend to see the super deep dumbbell bench press as trying to get the best of all worlds and really ending up with none, whereas you should stick to the strengths of an exercise. Despite this not being as stable as a regular barbell bench press, it's still pretty damn stable and you're in a locked in position, so it should be used as a primary heavy movement. Also, it's really cool to just throw around some heavy ass dumbbells. That first set was 120, then 110s, then 100s. And I swear these iron dumbbells are way heavier than those rubber wrapped ones. And supersetted with dumbbell press, we have Facepulls. One of my go-to exercises for the shoulders, not only for size, but also health. Eventually, I'll make that video about the holy grail of shoulder health exercises, and this will be on it. Now, this is supposed to target rear delts, and usually in programming, rear delts are put at the end of the day. They're low priority. But if you look at those people, they don't have gigantic fucking boulder shoulders like I do. Prioritizing the smaller muscle groups, even if they're less flashy, the exercises are more boring to do, is essential to crafting a good ass physique, not only in the size that you have, but the holistic development of all of your body parts and how they work together. So as for the execution of this exercise, I see a lot of people get it wrong. You should be pushing your elbows forward and your hands back like you're doing a front double bicep or rear double bicep. I guess it kind of doesn't matter. It's just all based on perspective, but allowing yourself to get pulled all the way forward into that stretch position, which, hey, I don't actually hate when it's advantageous. And then really contracting in the back. It's okay to get some traps involved because everybody can use more upper back work. Because I know you don't do heavy rack pulls or any of those upper back trap exercises, and neither do I, because they're kind of a bitch to set up and load like 6 plates to do some power shrugs. Although it is fun when you do it every couple of years. But back on track, the attachment that I'm using is the rope. It's not my preferred attachment because it is a bit hard to grip, but sometimes you just have to not be a wimp and use what you got. And also, if your grip strength is so pathetic that it can't hold on for a set of Facepulls, then you've got bigger problems. But my preferred one is the double D handle attachment that's like lengthened so that you don't just pull the cable straight into your face. And if I'm not using that, I usually go with the rope. Part of the advantage of the Facepull on top of getting juicy rear and side delts is that it works your rotator cuff. As bodybuilders, we're doing a lot of pressing and it gets super tight. And any shoulder agitation that you've had is probably due to a tight rotator cuff or pec minor, which this does an amazing job of opening up, especially as you drive those elbows forwards and hands back. As I said, this is on the holy grail for shoulder health exercises, and it's for a reason. Another benefit of doing a dumbbell press and a Facepull superset early is that it fully warms up the shoulder joints for more extreme ranges of motion that we're gonna get into later. And now for our second superset, we have our primary heavy pull, which is Barbell Rows. Now these are a primal exercise, ripping weight off the ground and going heavy. This wasn't my best performance because I was pretty gassed from the dumbbell press, to be honest, and my lower back was a bit sore from leg day earlier in the week, but I still threw around 275 for the first 2 sets. Now, despite barbell rows not really being one of my favorite exercises, I still do them. Yeah, I could do an iliac, lat pull down, wrap around, row through my legs, behind my back, over the head, dunk windmill, or I could do a tried and true exercise that I know puts mass on. This is not to disparage the iliac, lat, wraparound, etc., etc. I still do those in my program, but it is to cover all my bases. If you put all your eggs in one basket, going fully old schooler or going fully science-based, you're trusting that something has all of the answers, which I simply don't do. I prefer a varied and combined approach of everything and all the modalities out there. So I do a heavy ass cheat barbell row, and I also do the dinky one arm strapped in pull downs because neither has all the answers. And getting locked into one camp in a social media war about what's best is about the stupidest way to reap less gains. Put your ego to the side, learn from everybody, call people idiots when they're idiots, and give them praise when they actually come up with something good. At the end of the day, everybody wants more gains, but we're allowing our egos of needing to be right in all categories get in the way of providing quality information for the people who are just seeking it. Like, for example, I started lifting when I was 14. Luckily, I didn't go to fitness YouTube to learn because my dad knew some stuff. But if I had, like a lot of people nowadays, well, there's so much conflicting information. And instead of saying, hey guys, you need to find your unique training style and what works for you, and it's going to be a long process that takes forever, we either say 2 things. A, go take steroids, or B, I have the best way. Listen to me, I know everything. And that right there leads to some confusing shit, and the people who need it the most, the gains, the information, not benefiting. Anyways, that was kind of a side tangent, but if you want some more on that, check out my video, Natural Bodybuilding is Art. For some reason, YouTube is not liking that one and not pushing it out to people, despite it having really good statistics. But back to the barbell row. I, for the longest time, chose not to strap in on this exercise, allowing my ego to get in the way of gains. I thought, you know what, if I just can't grab it, then I shouldn't be rowing it. But my back has gotten stronger than my grip in the double overhand position. So now strapping in, I can use a good chunk more weight, and I can get my grip strength in other places. I also tend to feel that when I'm strapped in, the partial reps at the end seem to feel more connected as my grip fails, but I still have a strong connection to the bar. Now, supersetted with that barbell row is our tricep rope press down. Now, I switched to the rope as my specialization exercise, as you saw in Gunslinger and Dragon Reborn, because I couldn't use a full stack. When using a straight bar, I gotta throw like a 25 on top of the full stack because it's not heavy enough. But the problem is I've now reached using the full stack for sets of like 18 to 20 with the rope. So I don't know where I'm gonna go from here. I think I'm probably just gonna switch my long head exercise to the first position and put these at the second so I can continue to use less than the full stack. But I'm gonna say that these are some pretty good problems to have because it means I'm getting stronger. And when I'm getting stronger on an isolation exercise like this, that means that I'm getting fucking bigger. We're getting closer to 19-inch arms. I don't measure that often, but I think I'm like 18 3/8 right now on my left arm, which is my bigger arm. Right arm doesn't count. You always measure your bigger arm. But anyways, back on track with the exercise. I got a comment on my gunslinger video saying that this form was kind of crazy for these tricep press downs, and I can see how somebody could get there. Because textbook form is you stand straight up and down and you just extend along the line of your body, going parallel to you. But that doesn't really work when you're throwing around nearly your body weight, because it throws you off balance and you cannot apply as much pressure as you want with the muscles that you want. I emphasize the stretch by maximizing my elbow angle and then allowing them to get pulled up at the top, and then doing partials at the end in the pullover position to get even more stimulus. I also am very aggressive on my reps, but this does not mean I'm out of control. If you look at the eccentrics, if you look at the top contraction point, it is all under control and each rep looks like the last. There is no wildness in it. And the reason that I kick my butt back and lean over is to give me more leverage against the weight. I can activate my triceps more when I'm over the weight versus parallel to it. These are the things that I don't blame the guy commenting for not understanding, because I used to do tricep press downs standing straight up with the rope parallel to me because I was doing like 40, 50 pounds. But as you go down the weight stack, as you progress, your form evolves to fit your body and the necessities that you need to provide stimulus. It's a learning experience, like I talked about in that last tangent. You cannot just impart knowledge onto somebody and them instantly understand. It takes practice, and most importantly, when it comes to bodybuilding, for these lessons to reach the aha moment. I think one of the biggest things influencers lose as they progress farther is the remembrance of what they used to do, what got them to that point. This amnesia of training makes them preach what they're currently doing and why it's so good and so much better without understanding the process that it took them to get there. And not the mistakes that they made along the way, but the progressions that they had to go through to reach the form, the methodology, the training variables that they now use. I think a lot of them see the steps along the way as mistakes instead of building blocks. Yes, they're learning experiences. Yes, you may not do it anymore, but there was a time and a place and a reason that you were doing that in the past. No need to throw away the baby with the bathwater. You can take your lessons and impart them on to other people without it being exactly what you're doing right now, and right now does not have to be the exact perfect thing that you've ever done. But on to our next superset with our first bicep exercise, incline dumbbell curls. What I like about these is they're both stretch-based and free elbow. You have your shoulder locked in, but you can use some body English to get more reps. Like I talked about with the dumbbell press, your resistance point is not at that very bottom. Yeah, you want to get a good stretch because it is good for hypertrophy, but using a little bit of swing and a little bit of momentum to get out of that, to get more reps in that hardest point, is a go-to money move. I would prefer to use momentum and cut a little bit out at the bottom to get an extra full rep or two, then doing some partials at the bottom in that stretch position, because you want to look at the exercise and play to its strengths. And that is the strength of this exercise, is that you're not only getting a stretch, kind of like a preacher curl, but you're also able to use momentum and body English. This is another exercise where it's going to take some learning, and I still have not done these a bunch, so I'm still learning my form fully. But once you learn where to activate the chi, it's no different than like a basketball jump shot. If you hit the money spot, you're like cashing in good quality hypertrophic reps. Now, paired with this is one of my favorite side delt exercises, the behind the back wrist wrap cable lateral raise. This is some science-based bullshit, but I don't think I've seen anybody actually do it behind the back. This is an invention of my own. I do think the cuff on the wrist does make a huge difference. This combined with going behind the back makes a redundant side delt exercise. It's literally brain dead path to hitting your side delts, which a lot of people have problems with because it lines it up perfectly. Unlike a lateral raise with dumbbells where you get a lot of traps involved and your front delt gets moving, with your arm in this position, it is impossible to hit anything but your side and some rear delt. I also like the smooth resistance profile of the cable. It allows you to get a bunch of good partial reps in, and the pump is immaculate. One factor that I think is a great advantage to shoulder training is the low fatigueness of it. Except for pretty much overhead press, everything you do with shoulders is extremely low fatigue. So your pairings and your versatileness of these exercises is off the charts. Anytime you have a high fatigue exercise, you could possibly throw in some shoulders with it. And this combined with their ability to be hit pretty frequently as a small muscle group, it allows you to slot them in nearly anywhere and really emphasize a muscle group in a short amount of time that people usually are missing. Big shoulders are not as common as they should be with how easy these exercises are to implement into your training. They are probably my best body part. I got some gigantic fucking shoulders, and it's because I understand how you can scoop up the easy points without overthinking the training. Now this is our next superset, which a lot of you may not have access to, but you should go buy right now, which is the ring push-up. I'm doing it the rings turned out variation, which means I have my palms facing forward, emphasizing the upper chest a little bit and making it much harder. This is also a mechanical drop set, as when I fail, I switch to a regular push-up position. Now these are a brutal stretch on everything from your chest, shoulders to biceps, but one of the best exercises that you can do for chest development. I really wish these were more common than those stupid fucking TRX bands that cut up your arms. They are one of my favorite chest exercises of all time. Now you don't have to start with RTO and your feet elevated and touching your chest to the ground. You can take out the box, you can do it in regular push-up position, and you can just focus on putting your shoulders into deeper and deeper positions to get comfortable with the motion. You don't have to try to touch your elbows behind your back the first time. And also doing the drop set is not necessary. I'm used to this movement. My shoulders do well under extreme ranges of motions, but you may not be that case and build up to it. This is another exercise where you can use body English to spend more time in that hardest position, shifting my grip, going from more of a fly at the bottom into a press to get through those sticking points. I love unstable exercises because it teaches you how to use the other muscle groups and your own momentum to get more gains. If you're always doing something in a Smith machine or locked into a hammer strength, you're not going to learn how to move your body efficiently through space. As much as we do this to just look pretty and have big muscles, having an effective, capable body is also something that should be on your priority list. Now, supersetted with this, we have the one arm strapped in iliac lat pull down, or actually it's just a hammer strength pull down. And yes, like I talked about earlier, I use all the methodologies, both old school, science-based, whack job, bro science, all of it. And this is an excellent lat builder. I really in the past have not done a lot of unilateral work for my back, and so that's something that I have not exploited for gains, and it is working now. The thing that I like about these is it forces me to connect with my lats. I've always kind of had trouble with the mind-muscle connection to these, and so sitting here strapped in with an underhand grip, only focusing on targeting that specific muscle, I have to connect, because if I don't, I'm just wasting my fucking time. Nothing else is really getting hit significantly here. Sometimes putting yourself in these positions and exercises to slow down and actually think about what you're doing is really advantageous. I had to do the same thing with my calves, which I'll have a video coming out soon enough about calf training. But when you're not doing a big compound movement or a brain dead exercise that you know hits the muscle, you have to take a moment to understand what you're doing so you don't just waste time and get no gains. I've been experimenting with these, and I've gone from a rotating of my shoulder grip to just a pure underhand grip because I feel the stretch and the contraction a bit more. I've started to lean into it. I try to shift my hips and my body position as it goes up into the stretch position and then down and back into that contracted position. These learning experiences through taking a breath and understanding how your body works in its own unique way are essential to bringing your physique to the next level. Lagging body parts are lagging for two reasons. One, you don't understand the training, or two, you're not training it. If you're not training it, you know your problem. But if you are training it, if you are trying and it's not working, you need to take a step back and figure out how to make it work. When I'm working out at the college gym, they actually have a lat pull down that has two rotating cables. And what I'll do is I'll put my knee up under the pad while kneeling on the ground and reach over to the opposite side cable. And this allows me to pull crossbody, which feels really great. I attempted to do it here on the lat pull down, but it doesn't have a rotating cable, so it didn't work quite as well. I think that adapting to your situation, whether it's training in a different gym or you're having to train at home, is one of the best ways to learn how your body functions and find new ways to make gains. Now, our next superset is the cable preacher curl, the specialization exercise for my biceps. Well, the regular preacher curl is, but on this day I'm doing cables. I throw a pad on to get that extra stretch at the bottom because this is an exercise where the stretch is really important and should be emphasized. Despite as a cable exercise, you are able to grind out more. I think this honestly might be my favorite preacher curl variation, maybe because I get a gigantic fucking pump, or because the resistance profile feels so smooth and I really like that. It is a completely different feeling from a regular preacher curl, but it's still training the same movement and has added to the strength of my preacher curl on my other days. The specialization thing has really been working, as you can tell by my tricep press down strength and my preacher curl strength. I think that this was an extremely good idea, and I plan to continue it on through this bulk at least, and then I'm probably going to switch up which things I'm specializing in. I'm still a huge fan of variety as I talk about, but I have been technically specializing in things for a long time, just on a less frequent basis than 3 times a week. Now, paired with this exercise, I have good old Bar Skullcrushers. Now, this week was a little bit sloppy because for some reason I could not find the 110-pound one, and the 100-pound one was a little bit too light, but I actually really love my alternate variation of these. At the other gym that I go to sometimes, they have a Smith machine that moves in the 2 planes of motion. And doing it on there is insane because you have the stability of a Smith machine, but you can continue to just pump it out and essentially turn it into a pullover at the bottom while having the stability of the Smith machine keep the bar going straight. But these are still an excellent tricep builder, and you're able to grind them to oblivion. A variation that I used to do a lot is going with the extensions until I could do no more, pulling over on my chest, and then doing close grip French press as a finisher. That will get your triceps burning. And if you don't have time for 2 tricep exercises, try that. That both hits your long head and your short and medial ones to oblivion. I also really like the Dumbell skull crusher variation of this. I prefer to do it on a decline bench with my feet locked in because I feel like I can drive better. But doing those with the hammer grip allows you to get a crazy stretch on the triceps, and you have a lot of freedom of movement as you're not locked into a bar. Now for our final superset, we have cable pullovers with the lat pull down bar. I really do love these, but I have a confession to make that I tried it with that long rope that you see to the right, and I think I may like it more. My God, did it feel good, and I was able to get a crazy stretch and use some of that body English to really target the lats in the way that I wanted. But this is more than just lats. It's also your serratus, those fish gills that give you that pop from that front double bicep or that front lat spread. I think one of the most neglected muscles to 1, look lean on a bulk, but 2, look fucking gigantic and wide as hell. Naturals, it's really hard to build wide lats from the front, and those serratus are going to help in that illusion. And paired with this, we have pec deck flies. Since I did ring push-ups with a mechanical drop set earlier, I chose instead to just do regular flies this day. When I'm at the college gym, instead of the ring push-ups, I do incline Smith machine press. And because that is not as extremely brutal as the ring push-ups, I then do dumbbell flies with a mechanical drop set as my last chest exercise. That will fuck your chest up. Start by doing dumbbell flies, then switch to fly press, and then finally switch to just regular dumbbell press for those last few reps. I'll eventually have a video on you doing mechanical drop sets and how they can be effectively implemented. But as for this superset, the chest flies and the lat pullover complement each other in the best ways. Doing a deep chest fly and a lat pullover not only opens up your shoulders, but they are the premier finishers for their body parts. You have a heavy press, you have a stretch focus press, and then you have a fly. And that's what we have here today with our dumbbell press, then our ring push-up, then this. And for back, you have your heavy row or vertical pull, then you have your secondary row or vertical pull, then you have pullovers along with a rear delt or upper back exercise. This is what I talk about in the Demigod Protocol, about this holistic programming and developing the methodologies to train a muscle to completion and working up to that while maintaining the balance for the rest of your body. Jumping to my upper body day at this point would be crazy for a lot of people. But if you check out the Demigod Protocol, I show you exactly how to get to this point through a mapped out progression. If you haven't seen this video and you've watched this point, what are you doing? Go watch the Demigod Protocol. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this point. If you have, leave a comment about anything that you have a question about. We're currently sitting at about 220 on the bulk, looking nice, thick, and juicy. Let me know what other videos you would like to see. I'll have a Saiyan Warrior video coming out sometime soon. And that's it from me. Peace. I'm out.